Hey, it's JankyJolteon. Today we're going to be reacting to Ren's song, Hi Ren. I've seen this one a million times, but I thought Diana would have an excellent perspective on this one.
Hi, I'm Diana. I'm one of Bree's friends. I have been in the mental health field for the last 10 years, so I'm really excited to be reacting to something that has to do with mental health. My degree is LMSW, which means I'm a licensed master of social work. I know almost nothing about Ren other than what Bree has told me, and we just recently watched Ren's 1 through 8 chapters where he discusses his journey through trying to find out his medical diagnosis.
All right, ready?
Yes.
Hi there, Ren. It's been a little while. Did you miss me? You thought you buried me, didn't you? Risky. Cause I always come back. Deep down, you know that. Deep down, you know my.
Okay, so I really love the line. Like, the first thing I was going to point out, before I even heard the song, I had this suspicion that it was going to be like a conversation from two dichotomies within him, because the lighting was, you could see shadows on both sides of him as almost two parts. I really like that. I also, I recognize that he's from the UK, so it might be different, but I love that his socks are black, because typically, like, hospital standard is bright yellow or bright blue. They're typically grippy socks. So I like that idea that to me, it seems like symbolism that even during all the medical stuff, he's tried to keep at least one aspect of his identity, one part of his original stuff by the socks. Because that often happens in mental health. You know, people want to keep some of their clothes, and unfortunately, a lot of times they're not able to. I work in an inpatient facility, but socks are a little bit more safe. And then sometimes people like to cling to at least one part of what their identity was outside of this. So it almost feels like that could have been an intentional thing of keeping the socks, because it's the one thing you're still allowed to wear.
I like that.
Yeah.
Is it perfect for week, Ren? On your pleased to see me. It's been weeks since we spoke, bro. I know you need me. You're the sheep, I'm the shepherd. Not your place to lead me. Not your place to be biting off the hand that feeds me. Hi, Ren. I've been taking some time to be distant. I've been taking some time to be still. I've been taking some time to be by myself since my therapist told me I'm ill. And I've been making some progress lately. And I've learned some new coping skills. So I haven't really needed you much, man. I think we need to just step back and chill. Ren, you sound more insane than I do. You think that those doctors are really there to guide you? Been through this a million times. Your civilian mind is so perfect, they're always being lied to. Okay, take another pill, boy. Drown yourself in the sound of white noise. Follow this 10-step program, rejoice. All your problems will be gone. Fucking dumb boy. Nah, mate. This time is different, man, trust me. I feel like things might be falling in place. And my music's been kinda doing bits too. Like I actually might do something great. And when I'm gone, maybe I'll be remembered for doing something special with myself. That's why I don't think that we should talk, man. Cause when you're with me, it never seems to help. You think that you can amputate me? I am you, you are me.
So far, I mean, I'll have to listen to more, but I'm thinking this is like an argument of his creative side, his ideal side, with the parts of himself that are part of his unwellness, his health. Like the meaner voice, the higher pitched voice seems to be like, it feels like this is a discussion about how he's trying to be who he is, and he feels like this separation between these two parts of him, the illness that's trying to take over his identity, and the part of him that's really healthy and well. And it almost sounds like the song is a way of trying to come to terms with his new normal. That's something that we often do in mental health, is, you know, trying to cope with who you are now and trying to establish a new normal. Because it almost seems like Ren is neither of these people. One is the idealistic person from before he got sick, the one who could do so much more because the reality of his illness has limited some of the stuff he can do, and then the illness entirely. And I really like that. Also, I think you mentioned at one point that he was partially inspired by Eminem, because the song actually kind of reminds me of Eminem's song My Darling, which is where he only does it with like him in one voice, and the voice is his drug addiction, which, you know, is different than what Ren's is, but he also does a voice with it where that part almost feels like it tried to overshadow him, eclipse who he was. And I feel like this song is very much an expression of him trying to find peace with who he actually is and fighting with these two opposing identities, neither of which feel completely true to who he actually is.
Yeah, I like that. Alright, so it's a comment that he made on one of his YouTube videos, but he said, "Up until I was 9 years old, I would intermittently hear a voice in my head that was not my own. The voice was distinctly different to mine and always negative. It would self-criticize or urge me to do things that I knew to be morally wrong. The most peculiar thing about the voice was that it took no effort on my behalf to produce. My own thoughts always felt like there was a process that required effort to bring them to the forefront of my mind. This voice appeared as though it was spoken by another. The sentences felt predetermined, like they had already been constructed. I remember very vividly at 9 years old becoming very frustrated with this voice. I stood in my backyard, internally screaming at the voice to be silent again and again, and it did. In a flash, there was silence, to the point where my head felt like an empty room. I wasn't used to the quiet, and that voice never returned. It almost felt lonely in my head. When I got older, I had intermittent bouts with auditory hallucinations where I would hear perfect symphonies, usually at night when drifting off to sleep. They were so clear that they sounded like they were emanating from a radio in the corner of my room. I knew they weren't there, but for some reason they never came with the feeling of fear. I also recall sitting on a bus at the age of 15 and hearing the sound of a crowded room with about 100 voices chattering away. I was the only person apart from the driver of that bus. These experiences were always brief and few and far between. My last hallucination was during an intense bout of psychosis in 2015, and it was my first visual hallucination. I was walking down a pavement after jumping out of my mom's car in the crossroads, in a moment of frustration and distress with my condition. I was trying to run from myself. What appeared to be a homeless man with a dark complexion approached me and asked me what was wrong. I explained that I had been sick most of my life and I wasn't sure I had the strength to continue. He looked at me and smiled and told me, "Everything's going to be okay in the end, Ren." I had not told him my name. There was something so overpoweringly sincere about this very simple message, which brought with it an overwhelming sense of inner peace, and in a flash, he vanished. My rational brain always linked these experiences to what the doctors have told me, and that there are parts of my brain compromised by the autoimmunity in my body. That the myelin sheaths surrounding the complex electrical systems that conduct my thoughts were damaged and compromised, causing these lucid experiences that I knew did not exist inside the physical world. The part of me that edges away from logical and rational thought always attributed these thoughts to some kind of otherworldly intervention, and that made my thoughts the battleground of some spiritual tug-of-war. For a long time, I never really acknowledged this part of myself, for with it brought the danger and stigma of sounding like a crazy person. I decided with my latest release, to the best of my ability, to capture and express this chess match of thoughts. Hi Ren comes out in over just 24 hours. I can't wait for you all to hear it.
Oh, nice.
That for some context of the inner voice, that's kind of where he's coming from with that. But, that inner voice was kind of a spark of hope for him, at some point. And, I can relate to that part because I've just had this thing periodically come in. I just want you to be happy. That's all I hear. That's all it says. And that is incredibly frustrating when you're doing everything in your power to be happy and, your sickness...
Bitch, I'm trying!
Your sickness doesn't let you. I think I've said that. I want you to be happy. How? I'm trying here. You want to give me anything more useful than that? But at other times it has also been a definite inspiration.
You are I am we are one, split in two, that makes one, so you see, you gotta kill you if you wanna kill me. I'm not leftover dinner, I'm not scraps on the side. Oh, your music is thriving, delusional guy. Where's your top 10 hit? Where's your interview with Oprah? Wow, your Grammys ran. nowhere. Yeah, but my music's not commercial like that. I never chase numbers, statistics or stats. I never write hooks for the radio, they never even play me, so why would I concern myself with that? But my music is really connected, and the people who find it respect it. And for me that's enough, cause this life's been tough, so it gives me a purpose I can rest in. Man, you sound so pretentious. Ran, your music is so self-centered. No one wants to hear another song about how much you hate yourself. Trust me. You should be so lucky, having me inside you to guide you, remind you to manage expectations, provide you perspective. That thing you neglected, I get it. You wanna be a big deal, next Jimi Hendrix, forget it. Man, it's not like that. Man, it's just like that. I'm inside you, you twat. No, it's not, man, you're wrong. When I write, I belong. Let me break the fourth wall by acknowledging this song. Ren sits down, has a stroke of genius. He wants to write a song that was not done previous. A battle with the subconscious, Eminem did it. Played on guitar. Plan B did it. Man, you don't want
I was right.
Yeah.
I remember you saying that he liked Eminem. I like this, and it reminds me, I'm gonna completely slaughter the quote, but somebody was talking about how, like, just the part where he's like, oh, you're so happy to have me in you, and things like that. And then the criticism that he's getting from this other voice, it kind of reminds me of, there was this quote where he's like, this lady was talking about how when she sees people, her first thought would be like negative and mean, and then she'd feel bad and guilty about why is she thinking that, this is just another human being. And somebody said their mom once told them that the first thought you have is the impulse that society has taught you, and the second one is when your subconscious catches up and is your actual true thoughts. And I like
that.
Yeah.
I've heard a similar one. Like, your first thought is who you were conditioned to be, and your second thought is who you are.
Yeah, that's a more succinct way. That's probably closer to what she said. I'm slaughtering. Like I said, I just kind of, it's ping-ponging around in there. And I like that with this, too, because I think that's, that's the conditioned part that a lot of people have had. It's really sad. I saw another post that talked about how really effing sad it is that, things that are just intrinsic to human nature, singing, dancing, art, because they've been so commercialized, because they've been commoditized.
Now you can't do it unless you feel you're great at it, and that's not what art was designed for.
Yeah, you can't do it unless you can sell it.
It's for expression, not capitalism.
Yeah, and
if you can make money off of it, great, but by putting yourself in that box, you have so much more self-criticism that you just don't create as much as you should as a human being.
Yeah, and there's so much inherent shame in it, too. Some people won't sing because they don't think they're good at it. But singing is just an expression of human joy. Like, even if you're not good at it, even if you can't carry a tune, singing brings you joy, but we've been conditioned not to like it unless you're one of the professionals, one of the elites who can do it well. But, that's the dichotomy I think that Ren's struggling with, because he does sing really well, he does really good, he has a pleasant voice, he can carry a tune, but at the same time that's not what it really is about for him. He's wanting, this is one of the ways we connect. One of the things I always like to say is that art is one of the most helpful ways of therapy because it's vulnerability dressed up in pageantry. Yes. Because it's the idea that you can be more vulnerable if you sing, if you write. I love written words, expressive poetry, and these are good because you can connect to people and you can express truths that are really hard otherwise. Yes. I'll have to show you sometime, Andrea Gibson does a poem where they talk about like suicidal feelings, and they started off, their intro says, I just realized how much shame it brings me to say that. They say, I have a hard time staying alive sometimes, and I just realized how much shame I have saying that outside of the context of a poem. Because in a poem you can say it. It's dressed up vulnerability.
Yeah, because you say it anywhere else, people get a little weird about it, or, a little too concerned for the context, and you're like, I'm just trying to express something, not cry for help here, Yeah,
and you can be more vulnerable in a creative method because it's like a shield. Because you're doing it creatively. So yeah, I like that, this voice is telling him, oh, that's a, knockoff stuff. No, it's not. There are no original thoughts because we are like a human conscious that comes all together. You might express your thought differently, but a lot of times the emotions you feel are feelings that other people have felt because emotions are a human condition.
Original, you criminal, rip-off eyes. The pinnacle of your success is stealing other people's material. Ran, mate, we've heard it all before. She sells seashells on the seashore. Fuck you, I don't need you, I don't need to hear this. Cause I'm fine by myself, I'm a genius. And I will be great, and I will make waves. And I'll shake up the whole world beneath it. That's right, speak your truth, your fucking god complex leaks out of you. It's refreshing to ask for you, say it instead of downplay it. Music is all about the creative process, and if people can find something to relate to within that, then that's just a bonus. Fuck you, I'ma fucking kill you, Ren. Well, fucking kill me then, let's fucking have you, Ren. I'ma do it, watch me prove it. Who are you to down my music? Cause I call the shots, I choose it. You die. Yeah, I call the shots, and so I choose who survives. I'll tie you up in knots when I lock you inside. Newsflash. I was created at the dawn of creation. I am temptation. I am the snake in Eden. I am the reason for treason, beheading all kings. I am sin, with no rhyme or reason. Son of the morning, Lucifer, Antichrist, father of lies. Mephistopheles, truth in a blender, deceitful pretender, the banished avenger, the righteous surrender. When standing in front of my solar eclipse, my name is stitched to your lips. So you see, I won't bow to the will of a mortal, feeble and normal. You wanna kill me? I'm eternal immortal. I live in every decision that catalyzes chaos, that causes division. I live inside death, the beginning of end. I am you, you are me, I am you, friend. Hi, Ren. I've been taking some time to be distant. I've been taking some time to be still. I've been taking some time to be by myself, and I've spent half my life ill. But just as sure as the tide starts turning, just as sure as the night has dawned, just as sure as the rainfall soon runs dry when you stand in an eye of a storm, I was made...
I noticed too, so I like the flashing lights. It's, you know, that disjointed, argumentative time. It makes the watcher, the viewer, very disoriented.
Yeah,
and I think it's
more prominent when, you know, the dark side is more notable.
Yeah, when it's talking. And I've also noticed that, like, as he speaks more sure, like, you'll notice he has this he's intentionally doing this, like, closed-off slouched posture. That's the actual word. And then as he's speaking more assuredly, he comes up a little bit taller. Yeah. And I really like the whole, when he was like, right before your God complex comes out. I think that's really reflective to, like, a tactic of abusive relationships, honestly. Yeah. Because, like, he's been needled and needled and needled by this voice until, there's a term called reactive abuse, where, like, an abuser will be cruel to you, and then you respond, and then they gaslight you into, oh, look at you, you're being so erratic right now, you're being, you know... And it almost seems like that, because he's like, you know, it's just about the music, and then he's doubting him and doubting him. He's like, no, I'm going to make something great. He's like, oh, yeah, look at you now. See, this is the truth. That it was like the voice needled him into that.
And I got a really similar impression. Like, when he's talking as the light side, he's kind of withdrawn, almost like he's getting his ass kicked by this other guy on a regular basis. And then he's like, no, hold on, I'm over that. And he gets more confidence in his speaking.
Yeah. And I like that. I like the subtle imagery. You know, he's not really moving. He's sitting in this chair, which I'm just realizing now isn't actually like a full-on medical chair unless they're different there. And I think that's kind of interesting, too, because, you know, it's not a full-on wheelchair, but it is a medical assistance kind of device. So it's interesting. Like, I think everything's been chosen for a purpose, especially, like, part of it, too, is the lack of symmetry. The room itself is kind of symmetrical, but, like, the lamps aren't symmetrical. They're not both they're not equal distance from Ren. They're not the same height. They're not the same style. They're not the same size.
Yeah, and I can't wait to show you some of his other work, because he is very detail-oriented. It, like... Nothing is by accident. Everything has some sort of reason or purpose. And, and a lot of them tie into later videos, too. It doesn't make sense until another video he puts out, and then you connect it, and you're like, oh, cool.
Yeah, and I like that kind of stuff.
To be tested and twisted, I was made to be broken and beat. I was made by his hand, it's all part of his plan that I stand on my own 2 feet. And you know me, my will is eternal. And you know me, you've met me before. Face to face with a beast, I will rise from the east and I'll settle on the ocean floor. And I go by many names also. Some people know me as hope. Some people know me as the voice that you hear when you loosen the noose on the rope. And you know how I know that I'll prosper? 'Cause I stand here beside you today. I have stood in the flames that cremated my brain, and I didn't once flinch or shake. So cower of the man I've become, when I sing from the top of my lungs, that I won't retire, I'll stand in your fire, inspired by me to be strong. And when I am gone, I will rise in the music that I left behind. Ferocious, persistent, immortal like you, we're a climbing to different sides.
So I really like so he's doing the light flicker. The pronouns are he, right? He's doing oh my goodness, he's doing the light flickering again, but it's less violent this time. And I think it's
almost like the two sides have merged. Like, yes. It's a little bit of lightness and darkness in everyone, and instead of trying to fight against the dark side, you find a way for them to work. Like a yin and yang kind of deal.
Yeah, and I think it's no accident that it came right after where the side of where two different sides of the same coin. And I really like that, because in mental health too, we talk about how anger and anxiety are just two sides of a coin. Anger is just an attempt to keep yourself safe. And anxiety is just an attempt to keep yourself safe. It just depends on how you're reacting to it. So the idea of where the two different sides of the same coin, it has more acceptance, and I like that it is less violent now. There's still a dichotomy, but it's not as confrontational. And I like that. I think that's a very meaningful thing.
It becomes a conversation instead of a fight.
Yeah, conversation instead of conflict, and I like that as well. And I think it's, I think this is a journey of, I think this very much mirrors the chapters that we were looking at. It's a journey through, it starts off as this very unknown antagonistic thing, and as he grows and as he learns more about it, he may not understand fully everything about it, but he's coming to more acceptance. And I think that's kind of the process that we use for things that can't change.
When I was 17 years old, I shouted out into an empty room, into a blank canvas, that I would defeat the forces of evil. And for the next 10 years of my life, I suffered the consequence, with autoimmunity, illness, and psychosis. As I got older, I realized there were no real winners and there were no real losers in psychological warfare, but there were victims and there were students. It wasn't David versus Goliath.
Real quick, I hope it changes a little bit with it. I think it's interesting that he says, and I suffered the consequences of that decision, when he said, I'm going to fight the forces of evil. And I think that really plays into the human need for something to be the reason. Like, there has to be something to blame. And it's something that I talk about in mental health a lot too, with radical acceptance, with recovery and things like that. Sometimes things happen and there's no reason, there's no explanation, and it's really hard for us as a species to understand that, especially if it's something we didn't deserve. When something terrible happens, something has to have caused it. There has to be some kind of blame or reason, even if it's ourselves. We're more likely to blame ourselves than accept that something just happened for no reason, because it gives us a sense of control. We want to believe that everything happens for a reason, because it gives us the idea that, well, if there's a reason, if I find out what the reason is and just avoid it, it'll never happen again. So I think that, I hope that Ren doesn't still feel that way, that this was, something that he did, that this is his fault, because it absolutely isn't. From what, the suffering, the things that he's gone through, that's not his fault. It's something that happened, and, I'm hoping that he's recovering from it. But I thought that was really interesting. I paid the consequences for that, and it's an interesting line. And I hope it just more reflects how he felt at the moment, when he was looking for reason, looking for cause. And oftentimes that happens with medical too, especially in his experience, where everyone's like, oh, this is a hypochondriac thing. You can feel like, well, if I had conveyed this better, maybe they would have believed me. But sometimes they just don't believe you, because the medical field is...
Yeah, 10 years of medical gaslighting, tell me about it.
Yeah, the medical field is leagues away from where it should be. I mean, it's the same with mental health. We're only like 50 years away from when we used to lobotomize people, so there's still room to grow. And it sounds like he was a survivor of the inconsistencies and the inadequacies that we have. But yeah, I think that's interesting. I've paid for it. It wasn't Ren's fault, whatever he went. Right. Everything that he's gone through, it's not his fault. And it's, an applaudable moment that he survived all of it.
Definitely.
It was a pendulum, eternally swaying from the dark to the light. And the more intensely that the light shone, the darker the shadow it cast. It was never really a battle for me to win. It was an eternal dance. And like a dance, the more rigid I became, the harder it got. The more I cursed my clumsy footsteps, the more I struggled. So I got older, and I learned to relax, and I learned to soften, and that dance got easy. It is this eternal dance that separates human beings from angels, from demons, from gods. And I must not forget, we must not forget, that we are human beings.
Yeah, we have a few more seconds. I feel funny now because I was like, if I had just let it play a few more seconds, you would have said exactly what I thought. But I really like the end of that. I really do. I mean,
and you turn it into a dance instead of a fight. Yeah. And, you know, those lyrics really hit me hard because, like, you've known me pretty much the entire time of my struggle with similar things. You know, and it's like I'm fighting against this, fighting against that, and it was honestly just taking a step back is when everything just kind of worked out a little bit better.
Yeah.
You know, and just accepting things as they come, just... It seems less chaotic after that.
Yeah, and that's really good. I love, radical acceptance is my favorite therapeutic tool, so I will talk about it all day, every day, twice on Sunday if I can. I really like, because I think that that's a lot of what Ren was just talking about, too, because he...
Can you elaborate on radical acceptance?
Absolutely. So radical acceptance is the process of giving something the least amount of power to cause you harm. So it's basically the idea of looking at a situation and deciding what parts you have control over and what parts you can't. If anybody's ever heard the Serenity Prayer, that's actually based on radical acceptance. Accept the things you cannot change the things you cannot accept, and the wisdom to know the difference. So it's the idea that, you know, you can't change the fact that you have an illness. You can't change the fact that there's a pandemic going on. You can't change if a person you love dies, or somebody cheats on you, or a relationship breaks down. You have no control over the fact that somebody died. You have no control over what somebody else does. All you can control is how you react to it. And that's, you know, what he was saying. It was this dance that the more he fought against it, the harder it was. There's this quote from an article that I used to do about radical acceptance is, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And you suffer when you try to fight against something that you can't change. A lot of times we'll get these should statements stuck in our head. Or things should be this way. If only this hadn't happened. So should and if statements. If this was different. If that had happened. If I had never gotten sick. Or I shouldn't have gotten sick. Or this shouldn't have happened. Or they should have caught this before. They should have diagnosed me sooner. They should have. And it sucks that they didn't. But when you spend all your time thinking about how you wish things were, you're not able to focus on how things are. And if you're not focusing on how things are, you're not able to accurately take stock of what you can change. Mm-hmm. So radical acceptance is saying, you know, it's not fair this thing happened, but I'm going to accept it. And people struggle with that because they think acceptance means saying that it was right or saying that it won. You know, accepting...
It means that it happened, and how do I move forward from here?
Yes. The metaphor I always like to use is like there's a boulder in your path. If there's a giant boulder in your path, you can yell at the boulder, you can spit at the boulder, you can insult the boulder's mother. But the boulder remains a boulder no matter how much you wish it wasn't there.
Or you can beat the third Pokemon gym and convince your Pokemon to move it, but we're in the wrong universe, so I'm not sure how useful that is.
Yeah, so by acknowledging that the boulder is here, then you can say, okay, the boulder is not changing. I cannot change the boulder. But I can try to climb over the boulder. I can walk around the boulder. I can turn around the way that I came and find a different path. None of these are fair because they're harder. You know, if the boulder didn't exist, it'd be easier to go down the path. And it's not fair to you that you have to put more effort because this boulder, like who's this boulder to make your life more difficult? But the boulder remains a boulder no matter what. And the sooner you decide to climb over it, to go around it, to turn around the way you go, it'll take longer, but you're going to move forward. As long as you sit there wishing the boulder away, you remain stuck. Yeah. So I think there's some definite radical acceptance in what he's talking about.
Definitely.
And I think we have a few more seconds.
And one thing Ren does too is he's big for his one-take videos. Yeah. Like, he does all of this. Like, if you notice, there wasn't a single break in any of this. Yeah. I find that really amusing.
Yeah. And I like that he rested his guitar against the medical device as well, because I think that's, in his chapters that he talked a lot about how, obviously his medical issues impacted so much, but one of the biggest things that has impacted his music. During that, worst period when he was the sickest he'd ever been, he didn't pick up his guitar once. And I like the idea that, you know, putting them both together. He could have set the guitar to the side, he could have pushed the chair away, he could have had the weird pig mask guy come back and take the chair away. But I think that also falls into his acceptance thing. He's resting the music on it. He will always deal with this illness. Hopefully it'll get better. Hopefully it'll change and things like that, because it sounds like he's been having some really good progress recently. But it's the idea that both are here to stay.
Yeah.
Regardless of how much you want one away, they're both here to stay, and it's about how can you navigate them? How can you still have this with what's going on?
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, I like it, and I think this was a very therapeutic process for him, and I think it was the journey of trying to come to terms with everything that's happened, who he is, and trying to find a new normal. Yeah. Which is all any of us can do. Some people have a worse journey for that because their normal deviates more based on what they experience in their life. But that's really all any of us can do, is recognize the parts we can change, recognize the parts we can't change, and focus more energy on the parts we can change than not.
It's like, just compare it to a dance. You know,
Yes.
You don't know what your other partner's dancing to. You're just going to follow their movements until it works for both of you.
Yeah, and a dance can't work unless you participate. Well, you can refuse to
You
participate.
can dead weight and get thrown around, but you're the one that's going to get your butt kicked over that.
Yeah, none of us are young enough to do the toddler drop anymore. It won't be good for our knees. It won't be good for anything.
Valid.
Yeah, I like that. I like his, I can definitely see where he's got some inspiration, but it is his own story, because his story is his own story. I like, he was like, somebody's done this before. Nobody's done this exact thing, because nobody can live your life, because your life is your life. And nobody will experience the same, even if there's similar experiences or similar feelings people have gotten. And that's the point of it too. Music, to a certain degree, has to be relatable, because that's how you can, music is just an extension of connection. You're seeking to connect to others, and you can't do it if your situation is wholly unique.
Absolutely. Well, now that I've initiated you into the cult, I mean the book club, can I expect more of these videos with you?
Yeah, I'd absolutely come back. I think it's a lot of fun.
Ren has a big back catalog of stuff I've seen 100 times, and I can't do a true blind react to, but I know a ton of them would be right up your alley.
I like it. And I love his accent too. I know it's not an accent for him because I'm the one with the accent from his perspective, but just some of the ways he says words just itch my brain in a really awesome way. I love the way he says them.
He's talked about his accent a lot too. Like, it's a mix of like Welsh, English, Manx, and it's just kind of, you know, he's traveled a lot, so it's kind of a blend of all of that. That was my first thought too. When Ashley originally showed me Money Game was the first song she showed me, and I'm sitting there like, where the hell is this guy from? That sounds really cool. And that was my first thought.
It's really cool. I think it's really good. And I also, something I didn't mention in there, but I think he, it's interesting because you said it's all one take. Something he did with the lighting, or just the way he postured and stuff, he looked older and more haggard at the beginning. And I don't mean that in a mean way. Hopefully that was intentional and I'm not hurting his feelings. But just like the lighting and everything, it might have been the way he held his face. His face looked older and more haggard. And then as he came to like accept the two parts of him, as the lighting became less chaotic, he looked more young. He looks younger than his age anyways. Like, I've said that the entire time. And I really liked the idea that it was just he was acting as much as he was singing in this.
And that's one really cool thing about Ren too, is he's not just a great musician, but in all directions of art, there is something going on there.
Yeah, and everything is intentional.
You know, like, I'm going to show you his tales eventually, and you'll kind of see what I mean with the more wide range of art, that he's like, how are you good at so many things? That's not fair.
Yeah. It looks like he does all of them, because it just, popped up this other video. It looks like he does all of them in that room, which is interesting. He just changes the background.
He's reused it a little bit.
Yeah.
There's,
This is a bench. He was zoomed in closer, so you would only see, like, they can't see where I'm pointing, obviously, but all you could see was, like, this little corner of this bench right here, because he was zoomed in closer, and I was wondering what that was. I was like, is that, like, a messed up radiator or something?
Yeah.
But I like it. I definitely see the aspects. I think this is a very personalized journey of his struggle through this. And I like that mention for Eminem, because I was like, it kind of reminds me of My Darling. He actually did a few different songs, but he's not the first person who's done that either.
Right.
You know.
And the thing is, the idea doesn't have to be entirely original to be good.
Yeah, and everybody
he's clearly got his own
internal
spin on this, with his own story attached to it. And
yeah, absolutely. And I like that idea that it's, trying to come to terms with all the facets of yourself, even the parts that feel extremely alien, because they can feel foreign, and to a certain degree they can be foreign too. Like, he mentioned the bouts of psychosis and and things like that, and it's something that your own brain is producing, but it's something completely foreign because everything that we think, we feel, and we do is a chemical or electrical reaction in our brains. And if those chemicals aren't regulated the way that they should be, you can interpret and experience the world differently. Like, everything we see is just how our brain interprets it. The world isn't what we actually see. It's just what it is. And when our brains are dysregulated, it can feel like a alternative thing because you've grown up your entire life experiencing the world a specific way because your brain has this very specific level of functionality. And when it deviates from that, it can feel different because that's not what you've defined as normal. I like the phrase, normal is what most people agree upon.
Yeah.
And that's how it is this too.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for watching. So today is December 27th. Ren said that he's going to be releasing Vincent's Tale around New Year's. So me and Ashley will come back for a fresh reaction with that one. And we will have Diana here for more of our older songs to react to.
Yeah. It was fun doing this. I like doing blind reacts. The first one I've ever done, actually. I've seen people do them, and I've had it in my thoughts that
I think you did
them.
really good. Like, I'm definitely going to bully you into doing more of these with me.
Gentle bullying. It's
Gentle
okay. I will
bullying.
gently bully you into stuff, too.
That's just how our friendship works. Thank you guys. Don't forget to subscribe to Ren Makes Music and JankyJolteon. Have a good night.